right. For some reason it said it was public, so that makes me feel like maybe it's public.
I got a notification that it was broadcasting, so.
Okay. All right, so I guess we got to start this somewhere.
Anytime you're ready, sir.
All right, we'll do this. We'll just do an welcome to kind of thing. All right, I'm going to get a second so I can edit it. And welcome to the inaugural, meaning the first ever, episode of Police Box Paradox. Since you have no idea what this is and what we're doing right now, maybe we should start from the beginning. My name is Wes. I am host of a podcast called Those People and Him. I am joined by Michael, who is a host of Geekasm's podcast, as well as guest starring on such podcasts as the Comic Book Academy and everything else across the TPH podcast network. He also has a fabulous website, geekasms.com, which a lot of our content will flow through, and I have always felt is probably the number one resource for aggregating all the Doctor Who news across the web. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
We have both decided that we needed to start a Doctor Who podcast, and this is episode 1 of that. We're both huge Doctor Who fans. My entire family are Whovians to the core. There was, at dinner tonight, there was excitement because they didn't realize that the new season starts this week. That's kind of why we're doing this episode now. This is going to be a little different than what we're doing, I guess, moving forward. Our plan as it sits now is that episodes drop on Saturdays for Doctor Who, and we would like to have a podcast up and going Saturday evening as soon as the episode is over. Due to scheduling, maybe it'll be going up a little later than that, but within 24 hours at least, we'd like to have stuff going on and of us discussing that previous episode, and we'll cover a little bit of news and things as we go. We're not going to do a lot of spoilers. If we do decide to do some spoilers, they'll be clearly marked at the end of the episode of the segment, so don't freak out.
And I'll probably be searched out because it'll be me doing it.
Yeah, I've tried to stay away from spoilers because I like that surprise. Michael likes to break the spoilers on his website, so he knows a lot more about what's coming up. But we can probably have some good conversations about what could be happening without getting into what will be happening, because I do want to speculate, because that's part of the fun of Doctor Who. But yeah, we encourage you all to check out the website, geekasms.com/Doctor Who. That's where Mike's going to have a ton of Doctor Who news and things going up. We've got a Tumblr blog that we're kind of feeding information through. You can check us out on Twitter at PoliceBX Paradox. That's at PoliceBX Paradox. We do a lot of retweets and a lot of we're going to do a lot of questions and things. So expect, hopefully this will be in iTunes before the weekend, and if you get this, expect Saturday evening after the new episode airs, hopefully to have another episode of the podcast. Am I leaving anything out as far as who we are and what we got going on, Mike?
No.
See,
cover the podcast, cover the website, told them where to go, cover Twitter, Tumblr.
Email address is tardis@tphpod.net. If you send an email there, it'll go to Michael and myself, and we'll reply to you or reply on the show, do whatever we can. We're hoping to get a lot of listeners because, from what I can tell, there's not a whole lot of Doctor Who podcasts. There's a lot in number, but a lot of them don't do episodes anymore, or do like one or two and disappear.
Yeah,
and it's almost
a lot of rambling,
and it's almost all people in England. We are very, very American. To be quite clear, we're American in the South. So we may not be, I guess, what the typical Doctor Who fan would be, but I started watching Doctor Who I don't want to say several years ago. I didn't watch it as a kid. I didn't know anything about it, really, and I'd heard it was good. About midway through Tennant's run, I guess, is when I heard it was good, and I picked up the Eccleston series and started there, and I fell in love quickly. It was cheesy early on, but I like cheesy. So I fell in love with the show. It's one of my all-time favorites, and I'm excited we get to do a podcast about it because it is a good show, and it deserves that kind of treatment.
There's not many shows that have, is following a proper word?
Yeah.
Fan base. I mean, it's stronger. Fan base can go for Star Trek, Star Wars, any other shows or anything else, but there's a different there's a different feeling when it comes to Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the speculation, the rumors, people talking, guessing, everything going on. At least for me and different other shows that I've been into and everything else, there's not that much passion for just talking about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, look at it like this. Like Lost had a lot of speculation.
Yes.
But I don't know many people who say, you know what I'm going to do for Halloween? I'm dressing up like Sawyer. That's what I'm going to do. Whereas with Doctor Who, you have speculation, maybe not to the degree of what a Lost was, but you encompass that with this entire community that just loves the Doctor. And the beauty of the Doctor and why I dig it, and look, I was raised on violent 80s action movies, and you know, my parents pretty much said, watch whatever you want, do whatever you want, just don't get into trouble, be a good person, and it's all right. And I let my kids watch a lot of things that maybe other parents don't. Maybe I'm a little loose with the rules in that aspect. But the thing about Doctor Who, other than some episodes being a little scarier than others when it comes to children, I guess, overall, the morality in it, pretty good. You learn a lot of good lessons from the Doctor. He makes good choices. He's not trying to kill everybody for no reason. He's not. It brings me one of my favorite episodes, and it goes underrated, I think, is the two-parter with the Blood family. You spend the entire episode thinking that Doctor Who, and again, we're going to talk about anything that's happened up until the episode that just aired, we're talking about. So know that. You spend the entire two-part series thinking the Doctor is running scared from this family. And at the end, you realize, no, he was running because he didn't want to kill him. He didn't want he didn't want to take it to an extreme, so he was playing the role of a coward in order to save them from himself. And then you get that epic moment of the Doctor being the Doctor. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot, you're the baddest man in the universe, and if stuff's got to go down, it's going to go down.
Oh, yes.
So that, and then the Silence in the Library, there's just so many moments with I love the Doctor. It makes my world. So I guess we need to do this so people know our Whoism and our Whovianism, I guess. Who is your favorite Doctor?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Well, we have to put it out there.
I know. I will say this. Until last year, I was one of those that was more on Tennant, just because he had such a progression from when he started to when he ended and all that other stuff. But last year with, what was it? When a good man goes to war, something about that flipped me onto Matt Smith.
I know the exact moment you're meaning because it raised my feeling on Matt Smith.
He pointed out that he was angry.
Right, because the Doctor hadn't been. David Tennant was. It's not that he was more playful. He was just more. It was less. I don't know. There was just something more fun-loving about him. Whereas I am a huge. Now, in my mind, when you say the Doctor, immediately I picture David Tennant, because to me, David Tennant is the Doctor. He was from all the Doctors before, he was the Doctor. But I have a strange affinity for Christopher Eccleston. His Doctor is so much different than everyone else. He's coming out of war. He is scarred. He is bitter. He is cold. We were watching a few episodes from his season about 2 weeks ago, and I remember thinking, "Wow, he was a lot darker than what we have seen with Matt Smith originally up until this last season. Matt Smith was like an infant Doctor. Like he was excited to see anything. He's like, "Ooh, the sun, it's beautiful." You know, he was smelling the roses and excited by life. Whereas David Tennant kind of had a mission, and Eccleston was just battle scarred. And there's something about that Doctor that I like. And maybe it's because he was my first Doctor. I didn't start watching Tennant. The first episode I watched was the first episode of Eccleston's series. And again, I don't like the first episode. I think it's a little too cheesy, a little too low budget. It could be better. Yeah. I think if you liked Who before, it's a good send back. Like you see it and go, oh, I get where all this is going. But for me, I was like, man, I got to give this a little more time. Second episode, I was already on board. But by the time we got to Empty Child, I was all in. I was like, this is my show. This show is mine. Moffat early on, the Moffat episode spoke to me. It seems like when I pick out my favorite episodes, they're always Moffat episodes. But I don't. Okay, then I guess we could do this too. Your favorite episode, we're both going to say Blink, because that's just what everyone says.
Yeah.
I mean, Blink's the best episode.
Yes. I'll admit for the last 2 or 3 days where I've been driving around with work, I've been trying to just find one angel statue.
Yes.
And I was going to do like a social cam thing.
Yeah.
It was going to be don't blink. And I was just going to take my camera and go back and forth between me just staring.
Yeah.
And just go back and forth. I've not been able to find one anywhere.
We were somewhere in Nashville with my daughter. We had taken her to a doctor down there, and we were killing time. And I remember it was at a mall or something, and we were walking, and she grabbed my hand, and she was like, Dad, Dad, Dad. And I was like, what is wrong? And so I'm looking around like something's really happening, and I look up, and there is an angel statue. And I realized this child is scared that this thing is going to come get us. And I was like, wow, the doctor has gotten serious in this place.
See, I'm trying to get my kids into it, and they might both still be, well, Abby's obviously too young.
Right. I think
she'll still go around and attack me with the sonic screwdriver 24/7 if I let her have it. So.
See, I think subtle things like that. I think her having toys like that she can play with, not forcing her into it, seeing T-shirts, pictures, some of your artwork, things like that will make a difference and long term make her want to get into it. Whereas we never forced it here. I had watched the first couple episodes before the kids even knew what was going on, and then they stumbled down the steps one at a time. Blake was first, and he was like, I would like to watch this. I was like, jump on in. So he decided to watch it, and then my oldest daughter came down and she decided to watch it, and then over time the youngest and my wife got in, and it was over. That my wife got in, and she came in. She started watching with 20 minutes left to go in David Tennant's career as the Doctor. That's where she got involved. She walked down the steps, and this is a woman who I love, but who has trouble emotionally attaching to shows. We can be in the middle. I don't want to ruin any other shows or spoil them, but like the season finale of Battlestar Galactica, the series finale, there's a very poignant moment with a character and someone he cares about that has passed away, and they're standing in this field, and she looks up. I'm sitting there, tears in my eyes, because this is so powerful, and she's like, those are some pretty mountains back there, aren't they? I'm like, shut up! Don't talk. So she's coming down, and all the kids, we've all watched all of the episodes up to this point of David Tennant.
Going back to Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Because I want to know if this is you're talking about the one camera pan.
Yeah.
Where from behind him.
Yeah.
And you see he's holding her.
Yeah, that.
Right after the cabin line.
Yes, this is what I'm talking about. That moment.
Like,
I'm emotionally spent at this point because these characters have reached this point. We've gone on such a journey, and she is just like, those are pretty mountains. And I'm like, shut up, just don't talk. So she comes down the steps, and we're literally 15, 20 minutes left from that last episode being over. And I pause it and I say, listen, you can't come down here. She's like, but I want to watch the show. I was like, well, one, some serious stuff is getting ready to go down, because we all knew it was Tennant's last episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, two, I'm not going to have you ruin this moment, because I love David Tennant. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. When David Tennant says, I'm not ready to go, I don't want to go. When he says that line, I broke like a baby. That was so poignant, beautiful. It was painful.
And you could feel it. I mean, he was.
And it wasn't just the Doctor saying it. David Tennant was saying it.
He was looking at the camera and flat out telling.
And I was just like, no, you don't have to go. Who is this new person? So I knew I felt all that coming. And she came down and she sat, didn't say a word. And I was like, uh-oh. And so she's like, what are y'all going to do with this other guy? And I was like, well, we're going to watch it because it's the Doctor. So she starts through. She watched from that moment on. She's caught up to live. We went back. She watched all of Eccleston, and I think it's halfway through season 2. We still need to get her caught up. We just haven't had time because there's so many shows that we watch and everything. But I think her next episode is actually one of my favorites, which is Girl in the Fireplace, which I think is a classic episode. So yeah, I want to get her back into it and finish those up. But I'm telling you right now, everyone in this house is excited for Doctor Who to be back this Saturday. Everybody is tore up over Amy and Rory and all the news that they'll be leaving the show after the 5th episode. I'm telling you, this show, when people give it a chance, and I always feel like I'm apologizing for liking the show when I tell people to start, because I always say, I feel you have to watch the Eccleston season because Rose is important through the second seasons and the third season as far as her impact on David Tennant, but you don't get that if you don't see that relationship with Eccleston.
If you don't see the progression from Eccleston himself does a big. There's a big part with him where his character is night and day from beginning to end.
Once you get through all of Bad Wolf, it changes a lot of things for you, and you need that to always have. So I always tell people you have to watch Eccleston. I know that some of the episodes are a little rough and cheesy, and I think I like them more now because I love the Doctor, so I go back and it doesn't matter how cheesy something is. The Slavine's fine with me because I love the Doctor. But monsters walking around farting may not be the most attractive thing to get some people hooked. But if they make it through, I always tell them, make it through the Empty Child. You make it through the Empty Child two-parter because you get Captain Jack. You get probably Rose's best story at that point in the season. You get, there's a whole lot of quality and a scary, creepy kid, which scares the bejesus out of me. If someone,
but the tape, the recording, that's all you have to hear is see the tape and hear it, and
it's such a good episode. So I tell people if they can get through that, which we've got a friend named Rob that we're going to have on. I don't want to have him on every episode as far as talking through everything because I don't want him to ruin it. He went back and he started. He actually live tweeted watching. I want to say he live tweeted the second episode, End of the World.
He live tweeted End of the World because he made a couple of remarks regarding Rose, I think, about the big plastic, stuff. But he live tweeted Rose, the second episode. So
what we're thinking of doing is having him come on segments every episode or two and kind of bring us up to speed where he's at. So we kind of get to relive that him going through the series because I'm excited when anyone goes through the series because I like to be able to go back and talk to people about Silence in the Library. I like to be able to talk to people about Blink. I like to be able to talk to people about The 11th Hour, which we went and watched that again a couple weeks ago. Man, that's a good episode. There's a lot that happens to establish that character.
Once we're done, I'm probably going to watch it one more time just to see if I miss anything else to post on.
Yeah.
I dissected it beyond.
For those unaware, and this isn't really spoilers because it would be hard to even like Doctor Who or listen to a Doctor Who podcast and not know this. Amy and Rory will be leaving after episode 5. That episode, and we are told it will be a tragic ending of some kind. Yeah. And there are rumors that some of the foretelling in that is in the 11th hour, and Michael has been kind enough to go on the website and put together kind of some lists and some concepts of what could be the hidden things. One of which I've always found confusing is the Rory look off camera, like he turns around and he's kind of freaked out and then we don't really understand why and then he's fine again. Yeah. I always felt that was going to be a silence thing because it fit.
That was one of the first posts I ever did in terms of theories, ideas, and everything else, was pointing that out, highlighting the parts of the 5th season saying, okay, maybe the silence was here, maybe it's not. Because the concept of silence will fall has been there since Matt Smith has been there.
Right.
So, in theory, Moffat or anybody could have thrown little hints here and there everywhere. And
Moffat likes to leave breadcrumbs. He likes to build slow and steady.
And that's where it comes from the 11th Hours, an interview with Matt Smith that he flat out said there's one shot in the 11th hour that comes back full circle with Amy and Rory, and Matt Smith's quote was something like, he referring to Moffat, saying he has had this in his mind since then.
That's crazy.
What he was going to do.
Moffat's a genius. I'm serious. I look like Moffat, J.J. Abrams, Joss Whedon. These names go together. They're good at what they do. They get me excited, and we're gonna talk on other podcasts about some Joss Whedon news. I was wanting to get into S.H.I.E.L.D. TV shows, but we won't do that. We have to stay Who focused. Again, I'm on a podcast with a couple of people called Those People and Him. Michael has a podcast, Geekasms, which is on the TPH Podcast Network, tphpod.net, which you're probably listening to this there. There's all kinds of stuff.
We all bleed through.
Yeah, everyone just shows up on every show. Basically, we all just want to have our own show names, but we just show up on every show and talk. So we want to have some interaction. We want people to tweet. We may let people jump in on Hangouts. Who knows? Because we're going to be recording these via Hangout. We're hoping that we can have episodes up, immediately afterwards. We may do some content throughout the week or something like that if we have news or things we want to get to, and then really, we're open for suggestions. Anybody out there got something they want us to talk about, we'll be excited to. We love Doctor Who, and that's what we want to get across. It's a Doctor Who podcast by Doctor Who fans about one of the greatest shows ever to take place on this planet we live in, maybe in all of the galaxies. I'm sure Gallifrey would watch Doctor Who if they could get it on DirecTV, which we just got upgraded to BBC HD on DirecTV, so I'm excited about that. We didn't have, our BBC America was SD, so now we have HD, so that's a huge positive.
I'll ask you. You
okay?
Doctor episode. Which companion do you prefer?
Ooh, that's a good question. I always have a love in my heart for Rose, because Rose just was special. But here's the thing, and I look at them all a little differently. I did not like Donna for a long time until I realized I look at her kind of like Brad Pitt. For a long time, I said I didn't like Brad Pitt movies. And then I started realizing Brad Pitt's in a whole lot of good movies, so I gotta like Brad Pitt. Same thing with Donna. I kept telling myself I don't like Donna, but when I look back and things like finally having a doctor and companion without any sexual tension and being able to argue in a normal way, she's in a lot of good episodes. But when it all comes down to it at the end, I really think that Amy Pond is my favorite companion. She has been, excuse me, she's been the ultimate foil for the Doctor in about every sense. While there's not a love story there is, because of her obsession. There's a lot of sexual tension with Rory because he doesn't know how she feels about her and the Doctor and him and all that stuff building up. She finds a way to argue. She finds a way to see the opposite side, make him see more, like you were saying in Good Man Goes to War. He goes over the edge. He becomes more violent and aggressive than the Doctor has ever been, and she calls him on it. You know, she's just a special character to me, and that's why I'm sad to see her leave. And even when you look at this trailer that's coming up for Series 7, which we may or may not talk about,
reference, actually.
When she says, when he looks at her and says, "Don't be afraid," that's so powerful. When she just looks back and says, "Afraid? I'm not afraid," and then says Geronimo, and I was like, "That's Amy. That's who needs to be with my Doctor." And
it's not only that, it's the other part where it's the Western episode and he's going off referencing the Master, referencing everybody else, and she's like, "This is why you don't need to travel alone." Which
is completely true.
Yeah, she just flat out calls him out on it.
And I hate that it really, which I don't know any spoilers, I don't know anything that's happening, it sounds like we are going to have certain closure on Amy, and we're not going to get her back. Like, there's talk that Rose could come back for the 50th anniversary, but it sounds like that's not going to be an option with Amy. Like, they're going to close it in a way that we can't have that.
And I think even the actress herself, has come out and said, "You know what? If they're going to kill me, I'd rather do that than be left in limbo." You know,
right?
Because I want this story I want it to end.
Which that's what it deserves.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem, and it's a problem a lot of shows get into. They're scared to kill off characters because they don't want to kill off a character. Whereas you look at like Walking Dead. The beauty of The Walking Dead as a comic or a TV show is anybody can go. Yeah, you're watching it, it's like, I don't know what's happening, but I know that somebody's probably going to die any moment. And that's the tension that you have. Whereas you know the Doctor's not going to die. Even when we saw the Doctor die and we knew the Doctor was dead, they immediately gave us the Doctor back in like 37 seconds, and we're like, here you go. Here he is in the future. Obviously, this is going to work out in some way, shape, or form. You always know these people are coming back, or there's a way to do it. And with time travel, there's always ways to, dance around things. But I guess we'll kind of start to wind down on this one, because we just want to make sure we get something out there so people know what we're doing and know what we're about, and hopefully dig the show.
Hopefully they can pick up that we're just going to talk and talk and talk.
That's the plan. That's the plan, just to ramble about Doctor Who. Episode 1 of Series 7, Saturday night. I'm obviously we're excited. It's Asylum of the Daleks. It is there from the trailers that we've seen. He is in the middle of a mess of a whole lot of Daleks, and at some point it doesn't turn out well because there's a lot of them sitting there melted. I'm real excited about this episode. I'm somebody who has said we went to the Daleks way too much, and they've not done a whole lot with them. Like, there's nothing new with them to where it's like, oh, they're doing something, new and exciting with it. We might get something.
I found a new synopsis for the episode. You want me to read it?
Read it off.
First, Asylum of the Daleks?
Yep.
It says, according to legend, somewhere in the universe, hidden away, the Daleks have a dumping ground. An entire planet where they lock up the Daleks that go wrong. The battle-scarred, the insane, the Daleks and the Asylum are lost in rage. They despise all things, even themselves.
See, up until that last line, I was actually getting more excited because, to me, if a Dalek thinks a Dalek is broken, that means that maybe they have humanity, which would mean if you had good guy Daleks, that would be crazy.
Oh.
But if they're filled with rage, yes, I would like a quote.
Let's see. This is out of the Doctor Who magazine, so it's fair. I say that's fair game, don't
Yeah, that's fair game.
All right. This is from the Dalek Prime Minister.
Oh, did not know they held an election. Sorry.
It says, does it surprise you to know the Daleks have a concept of beauty?
That does surprise me.
And then it has the Doctor going, I thought you'd run out of ways to make me sick, but hello again.
Oh, it's going to be so
I can
good.
just hear him say that. And he's
I'm
like,
so excited.
You think hatred is beautiful, and then the Prime Minister goes, perhaps that's why we've never been able to kill you.
Oh, it's going to be good. Okay, everybody, we're gonna wrap up.
That's enough right there.
Yeah, we're good. This I'm hoping this will be in iTunes before Saturday, so hopefully we can get some people maybe poking around on board and they can find our show. And then hopefully that evening after the episode's over, we'll have something. Most of our episodes, if not all of them, will be recorded on Google Hangouts. So if you go to tphpod.net, you should find a link to the TPH Podcast Network Google Plus page and YouTube page where you can watch these as they happen live. Not a whole lot other than us just talking, but hey, maybe you want to watch, maybe you can join in. We're going to try to bring some other people. Jared from Those People in Him podcast, I know wants to be on an episode or two. My brother, who was on the fantasy draft, fantasy draft, excuse me, wants to be on some episodes and talk about it. He only started watching Doctor Who probably, it may have just been a year and a half. He wasn't really, he loves sci-fi, he loves a lot of things, but he hadn't watched It or Battlestar, and I convinced him to watch Doctor Who, and he fell in love with Doctor Who. He's a huge Who fan. And then finally he went and watched Battlestar too, because he was like, well, if you were right on Who, I got to give everything else a shot. So, I guess we'll wrap it up. Please, if you got any questions, you want to get us to answer anything, talk about anything, give some feedback, you can check us out on Twitter at PoliceBXParadox. You can email us tardis@tphpod.net. You can check out the website, geekasms.com/Doctor Who. You can check us and other podcasts on tphpod.net. We got a lot of geek-type podcasts. Got some sports podcasts that we're kind of got going on. You can check us all out and hopefully find something.
And if you want spoilers, check out Geekasm.
Yeah,
he gives spoilers.
He'll spoil it. Now he'll warn you in the article that it's going to be a spoiler because he also has. I'll tell you this about Mike, and this is one of the most impressive things. This man puts together some theory. He goes through and does some theory research. His theory on Sherlock Holmes season 2 episode 3 finale. That was some pretty strong work. You did some work on that. He's got slide rules out. He's
I've got yeah. You should.
Yeah, there's math involved on this.
I've got the threads going everywhere, and
so
it's really
Geekasms is a great place for any type of geek news anyway. Great place for finding all the geek news from around the web. And Doctor Who news in particular is very strong there. And there are spoilers, but they're clearly marked spoilers, so you don't get spoiled. And lots of good theory stuff. And hopefully we can get some discussion going. We'd love to hear from everybody. Until next time, we don't really have a closing catchphrase, so we'll see you on episode 2 of Police Box Paradox.